to the Talking Michigan Transportation Podcast. I'm Jeff Cranston. I had the opportunity to catch up with Amy Winn, who is the administrator of the Blue Water Bridge, which is the bridge that links Port Huron, Michigan with Sarnia, Ontario. Very important part of our overall transportation network, and been the subject of all kinds of challenges over the years, going back nearly 20 years with efforts to try to improve the Customs Plaza, where the Customs and Border Patrol on the U.S. side have to inspect vehicles and check everything that's coming into the country, post 911 and all of the security protocols that came with that. There were a lot more challenges, and there was at one time funding to expand that plaza and make things more efficient, and then the federal government said they didn't have the funding. It's been an on and off thing, but they are celebrating this week the completion of the first component of some early works that involve some connections there at the bridge on the U.S. side, making things more efficient, also some noise walls, which the community has wanted for a long time. And they're also going to, as they celebrate that completion, kick off the next component with some construction and a loop that'll create better access for the duty-free and for the Customs and Border Patrol and their outbound building and the booths and the canopy. All those things are improvements that have long been needed, and thanks to some grants from the federal government and a lot of hard work by the staff, a lot of community outreach and collaboration with city officials in Port Huron, lots of meetings, community meetings with people showing up just to try to understand. The staff has done an impressive job, patience and fortitude in making this happen. So Amy had a lot of good things to say about how they got there and what's coming next. I hope you enjoy the conversation. So again, I'm with Amy Winn, who is the administrator of the Blue Water Bridge. Amy, I appreciate you taking time to talk. The news peg here is a celebration finally for the kind of a two-pronged thing, both to celebrate the completion of one component of this long-awaited plaza project for the bridge on the U.S. side, and then also to kick off the next phase. But first, talk a little bit about you and your background and your trajectory and what brought you to this position.
Sure. So I've been with the state of Michigan for 29 years. And I originally began my career while I was going to school full time, and I was working full time for the Department of State, which we all know is Secretary of State. And I spent 22 years there, pretty much holding every position from the clerk level, which is the person that you walk into the office and handle your transactions with, to the Metro Division Director, which was my last title that I held before coming to MDOT. So I have been at Blue Water Bridge for 9 years, just over 9 years as of late July. And, it was really kind of luck that brought me here. When I saw the posting, it was closing that particular day, and I had not gone out to look for another job, but somebody had asked me if I would look at a position that was posted. It was a different position, and I said that I would, and in so doing, I happened to come across the posting for Blue Water Bridge. And I grew up in St. Clair County, and I spent a lot of summer days down by the water watching the boats with my parents, and it was very intriguing to me. I'm not an engineer by trade. My education is in business, and so I thought it was a long shot. But I have come to find out 9 years later that this was the perfect transition for me. I absolutely love being at Blue Water. There's something different every day. We get a little taste of everything. And my business background has really proven to be an asset to Blue Water Bridge, especially with all of the major contracting that we've been doing as of late. It was kind of just a fluke, but here I am, and I'm enjoying every day of it.
So I wondered if I mean, obviously you read the background and you knew from growing up in the community how important this bridge is as not just a structure and not just because of its functional use, but what it means in the community beyond that. It has outsized importance in the city of Port Huron, and the department has been through a lot the last 20 years or so, trying to accommodate the traffic, all of the security concerns post 911, all those things. Thought in the early 2000s that there was a plan going forward, then found out a series of times that the federal government couldn't afford to do what they needed to do in terms of a plaza, in terms of Customs and Border Patrol. And you knew all that. And, when you first started, we had to do an editorial board with the Port Huron Times-Herald, and they've always been, they reflect their community and they reflect the skepticism and the concerns about why MDOT has gone so far as to take out houses with this plan to build this and then get the money pulled out from under them by the federal government. And they don't care. They don't care if it's the feds or the state. All they know is they feel like they're on the short end of the stick. So you knew all that and you still took it on.
I did.
So talk about that.
So, I mean, I knew that there were challenges here, to the extent of the depth of the issues with the project in previous years. I really didn't have that awareness. I just kind of had the surface level awareness of what had happened. And I knew that coming in here, we were going to have to repair some relationships. And it was always a goal of mine. In any position that I've been in, I take the stance that I want to leave it better than I found it. Whatever it is that means to that position and that agency in the community that we're in at that time. I mean, we work for the public, and I'm very committed to that. And so, we started slow when I first got here. I definitely needed to kind of learn the lay of the land and understand exactly what issues took place previously, and, figure out kind of what gates we needed to open and, what relationships we really needed to repair. And it was a long road, Jeff, for us to get there. But we did it. We did it. And, we've always had our eye on the prize. And I think what's really helped us to overcome some of those previous obstacles and kind of we weren't the community favorite, that's for sure. Anytime you mention Blue Water Bridge, people just kind of got their noses crinkled up a little bit. And, I didn't really care for that. And so our eye on the prize was just to, be truthful, be transparent, do what we said we were going to do, and not make promises that we couldn't keep. We just kind of went straight ahead with that. And I think it's gone a long way for both the, local elected officials and certainly the community to see that we're actually doing what we said we were going to do in the way that we said we were going to do it.
I think it's a model really for community engagement. I think what you and Carrie Warren, who's been your project manager on the project we're talking about today, just establishing that trust and establishing those relationships, and knowing that sometimes you're going to have to deliver bad news, but they still know that you're operating in good faith and you're being honest with them. And that's just, I mean, you could probably teach a course on that now, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, it was kind of unheard of. We had quite a few public engagement sessions, and, we had over 300 people attend our public outreach sessions. And I mean, that tells you right there how involved the community is, right? Because it's kind of unheard of. And not only did we want that, we were actively encouraging that within the community. We were going out, and doing more than what we needed to do to ensure that people knew that they could come in and talk to us and they could see what it was that was going to be happening. And you're absolutely right. There were many a day that Carrie, myself, and other people on the project have, taken those phone calls or had those in-person conversations and had to say, I'm sorry, but the project isn't going to do this, or we're not going to be able to do that. Or yes, you are going to have a little bit of, chaos for a short period of time while we're working on certain things, but we promise we'll let you know, we'll keep you aware. And so, it was, nobody likes to tell anybody no. And community members don't like to hear no, but the only thing that we could do is just be honest with the public and be very transparent. And although not always easy, I think it was the best way to go, especially given our history here in this community.
Talk about a specific moment, one of these meetings. What issue was on the table that you found to be just particularly challenging and really contentious?
Yeah. So we, with every project, you have your project area, right? That's already been kind of dictated for you. And there are certain things that you can and can't do within those project boundaries. And for us, there is an intersection here on Pine Grove that was, in quotations, a skewed intersection, right? It wasn't a pretty one. It was a point of contention for the community for a long time. It was a relatively expensive fix. The locals didn't have money to fix it. The Huron TSC was not going to have money to fix this intersection, and it lied within our project boundaries. However, it wasn't a task that we were taking on with the project initially. But after our first public engagement session, and the immense amount of feedback that we got from the public and the disheartening of the public when we said, no, that's not part of the project for us to straighten that intersection was really just kind of overwhelming. And, we're here to make things better. Granted, us being in this community is, it can be difficult at times because we do cause a lot of traffic at different periods. So we sat back and said, is there any way that we can do this?
Well, set the scene. This is Pine Grove is a city, Port Huron City Street.
Yes.
And intersecting with?
It intersects. So it was right as our, where you came off of the exit ramp from the freeway. If you weren't going to Blue Water Bridge, you had to get off the freeway. This is where you exited. And then you either traversed Pine Grove by going north or south. And our traffic certainly impedes and impacts that intersection. And the intersection itself was skewed. So it didn't go straight through. It kind of had a little bit of a jog to it. And there also was not good access for non-motorized vehicles or non-motorized transportation. So, there's a lot of people that like to ride bikes in this area, in this community. There's a lot of people who walk. And there really wasn't a safe route for those folks to take.
Because it's near a beautiful riverfront.
Yes, absolutely. And it really it wasn't the best situation, right? And so a lot of people have a lot of feelings about that intersection prior to us, straightening it out. And we just went back to the table and said, can we find the money to do this? And if so, can we add this work to the project? And we figured out a way. So, we definitely invested about $20 million there. And but I can tell you there's not a day that I don't look out my office window here and look at that intersection and think that was the right thing to do. Yeah, it's just made such a huge improvement to that main corridor.
Please stay tuned. We'll be back with more Talking Michigan Transportation right after this.
If you need to get out and stretch your legs, don't forget about the annual Mackinac Bridge Walk. Make your plans to attend the walk on Labor Day and take in some of the best views in the state of Michigan on the Mighty Mac. For more information, go to MackinacBridge.org/walk.
So as people are listening to this on Thursday, August 6th, you will be celebrating.
Yes.
And talk about what that is and what it means to you and your team to finally arrive at this point. And after all that engagement that we talked about earlier and the collaboration with city officials, not to mention state and federal elected officials, kind of lay that out for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, Thursday's a big day for us around here because it literally is the culmination of the last 9 years of work for me, and certainly, 9+ years for people who were at this project beforehand. And, it really just is a big celebration. It is a testament to the hard work that everybody has put into this project to get us where we are today. Because I'm going to tell you, Jeff, there were a lot of days between 2017 and today that I didn't know if we were going to get here. And I'm a pretty resolved person. I will say I can be stubborn at times, and I wasn't sure that we were actually going to make it to the finish line, but we are. And so this is really just a celebration of repaired relationships, community involvement, making things better for the people who live here, doing what we said we were going to do, and just standing tall and figuring out a way to get things done. And, if that doesn't speak to what Department of Transportation does, I'm not sure what would, right? Yes. It really is reflective of what we're supposed to do at the Department of Transportation.
So the most tangible thing, right, is the eastbound 94 and I-69 exit where you were talking about earlier to Pine Grove Avenue. And not only is that improved, safer, more efficient operations, but you also have a sound wall there, right?
We do. So we've got component 1, which we're celebrating substantial completion of. That work began in the spring of 2025. We anticipate full completion this fall. And that was approximately $36.3 million of investment there. We did a lot of things within that. We relocated exit 275, which is the ramp that I just spoke about. We reconfigured Pine Grove Avenue and 10th Ave intersection, which was that skewed intersection that we've spent a lot of time talking about. We rebuilt eastbound I-94 and 69 out by the MDOT maintenance facility, and we've also installed noise walls along both eastbound I-94, I-69 exit to Pine Grove, and along westbound I-94, I-69 business loop from Garfield Street back to Black River Bridge. So we did a lot. We did a lot in a very short period of time, which most folks didn't think we'd be able, to accomplish, because we did have a very aggressive schedule. That was one of the feedback items early on for people was, your schedule is really aggressive. Do you really think you're going to be able to do that? And we have some deadlines that we needed to hit, because we also used $25 million of an INFRA grant that was awarded to us in 2020 for the plaza expansion.
That's a federal INFRA grant, yeah.
That is a federal INFRA grant, yes. So we had $25 million that was awarded to us, and we had some timelines associated with that. And so we knew we had to be aggressive, but we were able to get it done and use the $25 million all in component 1. And so we took off a chunk and went running.
So let's talk about what's next, because this is kind of a unique event where you're celebrating the completion of component 1, and then you're right away going to go ahead and break ground, celebrate the beginning of component 2. So what all goes into component 2?
So component 2 is approximately $300 million investment for us. It primarily focuses on expanding and reconfiguring the entire southern portion of the plaza. So the work that we're going to get done there is we're going to relocate all of the tolling operations and facilities. We're going to build an outbound inspection facility for U.S. Customs and Border Protection. We're going to relocate Duty Free Americas, which is huge.
That matters a lot to people.
Yes, but definitely to our community. And then we're going to relocate the local access ramp to the west side of the plaza, where currently it's on the east side, and again interferes more than we'd like it to with our regular commuters trying to traverse from east to west, north to south, of town, both from downtown and to the Fort Gratiot area. So
talk about how that will improve efficiency of travel and just make things easier for people, both, getting on the bridge and getting off the bridge.
Yeah. So the thing that we always heard the most about from the community, and I completely understand why, was that Duty Free Americas sat in a location that made all patrons and travelers, they had to get off of the freeway, come down Pine Grove, and enter into the Duty Free America shop, which forced all that traffic to go on to our regular mainline system here, which is the thoroughfare from north to south. If you want to go from downtown to Fort Gratiot, you have to go through Pine Grove and you have to pass the Blue Water Bridge. And it caused a real problem because we couldn't stop people from going to shop at Duty Free, and the only way for them to get there was to interfere with regular traffic. And so we caused a lot of backups at very inopportune times. That was, cause for concern, not only because of delays in traffic, but certainly safety first. You never want to try and have a situation where you have people backed up in traffic in a very short length. I mean, you literally got off of the ramp, immediately turned left, went a very short distance, and had to turn left again to get into Duty Free. And so we are very excited that that's going to get fixed.
Yeah,
I think everybody's very excited.
The more traditional model would be that you can pull off the plaza, do that, and get right back on the freeway, right, without having to leave.
Yes.
So.
Our new plaza incorporates Duty Free right within. We call it our loop, or our plaza loop, and nobody will have to get off of the freeway in order to visit the Duty Free America. Tolling operations are going to be separated, which is going to allow for a little bit more space for CBP to perform their operations on our current plaza, and also we're going to have an outbound inspection space for CBP, which improves safety and allows for adequate space for the trucks to safely pull over and allow CBP to, do their homeland security activities. So yeah, we're making a lot of improvements.
So in addition to what you're able to do with trucks and inspections and I guess even X-ray, those trucks,
Yep.
Are there technologies that are going to be in place to make things more efficient just for the regular vehicle traveler?
Yes. So we're hoping, we've already instituted in our tolling operations prepaid accounts for both commercial travelers and regular commuters. And that allows for pretty much just a seamless transition through our tolling operations. There's no need to fully stop and make a payment. They can kind of just continue to slow roll through, which efficiency wise, obviously the less stops, the quicker things are moving.
Right.
And so, but there are additional things that we can do to even improve that further. So there's some tolling technology that we're looking at adding that, is a little bit more efficient as far as operations go. And there's also it's my understanding from CBP that there's also some improvements to how they're going to be able to manage their operations also. So as you can imagine, those things are kept pretty close to the chest for
sure.
CBP. And so, we certainly respect their position here, and, they have a really important job to get done too. So
all in that next component, the groundbreaking that you're doing as part of this, how much will we have invested in that?
So component 2 is, it's approximately $300 million. We've got component 1, which was the 36 and some change. We also had a $35 million investment of Blue Water Bridge funds into the relocation of the DTE substation, which is another huge improvement for the community. That substation was aging. And, certainly it was in everybody's best interest to try and move that out of the middle of the plaza. And so we did invest $35 million there towards that.
Is that aesthetics as much as anything?
Aesthetics? No. I mean, aesthetics, yes, but it just gives the community more capacity.
Okay, well, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. Like I say, it was aging infrastructure, and it just gives more capacity. As we know, everything, these days requires some sort of electricity, and, even more so headed into the future. And so this just allows for more efficiencies and hopefully less outages, right? Because it's brand new infrastructure, and it services a large area. So it's not just city of Port Huron proper. It expands itself quite a bit south and quite a bit north. So
there might be some discussions going on about electricity and capacity.
Just a few.
And elsewhere.
Just a few.
Well, let's look ahead, because tomorrow, as happy as everybody will be, you're going to get questions about well, what else? Because if there's 4 components and we're celebrating the first and kicking off the second, then what happens with the next 2?
Sure. So components 3 and 4, those are roughly a $466 million investment. So, as we know, things do not become less expensive as time goes on. They just become more expensive. So our $466 million does try and take into account some escalated costs, for future building. But that number can continue to go up, and it's not a small number by any means. Right now, we continue to work with our federal partners because the majority of that infrastructure is set aside for CBP operations. And so, in order for us to be able to continue to move forward kind of seamlessly through these components, we need their commitment to be able to occupy that space, and they're working hard to try and come up with some ways to do that. So, components 3 and 4 will go as soon as the funding is available, and hopefully we can kind of continue that work consecutively. But one of the things we did with this project was to ensure that we built each component with independent utility, and what that means is each component can stand alone. It doesn't depend on another component for it to have improvements. And so we were very careful in the planning stages. Carrie and I both joke that previous us, meaning 4 or 5 years ago, were really smart when we determined that these components needed independent utility. So because you never know. You just never know what's going to happen. Priorities change all the time, and we just need to be ready and prepared for that. So,
well, no, when they built the first span in the 30s, they probably realized shortly after that they needed more capacity, and it took another 60 years to get another span, right? But I'll bet you soon after the first one opened, they said, you know what, we should have gone bigger.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, always, right? You're not even done building something and you're looking back and thinking, man, I could have used a little bit of this and a little bit of that, right? But, what we do is we do the best we can with the opportunities that we have available to us. Everybody would love to be able to build and construct things perfectly with an open checkbook, but the reality is that's just not the way things work. And so, that's why it's so important for us to really concentrate on what's important and make sure that we're spending every penny in the best way possible.
So there's another international crossing, hour and a half south of you that has been in the spotlight recently. It's only been 9 days. Have you noticed any different in your traffic volumes, any change in your traffic volumes since the Gordie Howe International Bridge opened? I'm thinking it's too early, but it's a question we've been asked, so I kind of thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, no, we actually have not. And we've been watching very closely. We anticipated that some of our wide load commercial traffic and, some of our hazardous material crossings may fluctuate. But as of right now, we are holding steady. So we have not really realized any decreases in traffic, and the majority of our passenger traffic has been picking up, which is ironic, right? Our truck traffic has stayed pretty consistent across the board, even during COVID, right? Truck traffic kept coming, but the passenger traffic, the people that were moving about, slowed down. And we've never really fully recovered from that, but we have seen double digits, even over 20% increases as of late in our passenger traffic, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little unexpected, but these things are hard to predict.
Well, it's not completely redundant either. You've got different destinations, different routes, different objectives for the two bridges and the travelers that are going to go up 69 anyway, up 69 and 94. Yeah. Well, Amy, thank you for talking about this. Congratulations to you and your team. I know this feels really good, and you should definitely take at least a couple days to take a deep breath and celebrate, and then think about what's next, I guess.
Yeah, we've got a lot of work to get done, and so we're as excited as ever. But yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'd like to thank you once more for tuning in to Talking Michigan Transportation. You can find show notes and more on Apple Podcasts or Buzzsprout. I also want to acknowledge the talented people who help make this a reality each week, starting with Randy Debler, who skillfully edits the audio, Jesse Ball, who proofs the content, and Jackie Salinas, who posts the podcast to various platforms and transcribes the audio to make it accessible to all.